Okay, now we've got the microphone on. If you guys can, sorry about that. So we were just having an issue previously, but it looks like, woohoo! So Justine, still no sound though? Now, any sound now? Back on? Cool. James is back on, Lucy's is back on, but have we got sound? Cool, awesome. Yay, thanks guys. Thank you so much for letting me know. Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to go, cool, so the other one, hopefully, so believe anyone else that's still in the other chat on another window, please try logging off and log back on. Cool. Welcome to those that have just joined. We're going to get straight into it because I know that most of you were here previously, and we have got some slides to get through. So what we were up to that the reason, luckily we just started, so anyone that's just joining now, you haven't missed anything. What we're going to go through today is how to address all your PCOS symptoms by treating your PCOS type. So what I was saying is the reason that all is in bold is because when we treat the root cause or the PCOS type, that's when we start to see resolution for so many symptoms. Rather than say, you know, the medical approach, which is give you like a medication for one symptom and then another medication for another symptom, right? So the thing is that I can almost guarantee that not every one of you, well, I can almost guarantee that every one of you would have more than one PCOS symptom. So you might have some, you know, missing periods and also some pesky acne, or maybe you're struggling with weight as well as unwanted hair growth or hair loss. But if you went to the doctor with your acne, they'd probably just give you antibiotics or Roaccutane to fix the acne. But then you'll be like, but I'm also not getting a period. And they'll be like, oh, here's hormonal birth control. But then, so none of those, the reason they have to give you one for each kind of thing is that none of them are fixing that root cause. And when you go off them, the problem will still be there. So, and a super great example of this is a woman called Dana, and she's a doctor, and she was came through my PCOS protocol program because she was like, I'm gaining weight. I've never been able to lose weight, especially around my middle. I'm now suffering from hair loss, now suffering from acne. My periods have gone missing, and I'm also having mega fatigue and sugar cravings, which she didn't realize were connected to that root cause, but totally were. So again, so she's a great example of not just one, you know, symptom, but so many different symptoms, okay, and which is what most of you will have an issue, you know, will have with. So sorry if it keeps cutting in and cutting back out, but hopefully you can still hear the majority of what we've got going on here. I think it might be a Wi-Fi issue in my office here. So I work in like a co-working space. There's like 10 different businesses that work out of here, and so we all share the same Wi-Fi. Generally, it's pretty good. But hopefully, you know, it's not too bad for you guys. So as I was talking about before with Dana, she's a doctor. She's got all access to all the medication she could want, okay? But that wasn't able to fix kind of her root cause. She tried Roaccutane, she tried many different things, she tried all different diets. She was like, I'm a doctor, I should know like how to eat healthy. But she found out that actually eating healthy was very different depending on what the root cause was. So she had never been able to lose weight. This is a photo actually that she posted in our private forum for the protocol, and she was like, haha, so funny. My cousin just came up to me in the gym and was like, well, you're not J-Lo yet, but you're looking pretty good. And she was like, yeah, damn, I am, because like this is, you know, finally the first time in forever I can actually start to improve my symptoms. So what we're going to go through today is I'm going to, at the end, I'm going to take you through, because you're probably thinking, okay, that's all very well clear, but how do I identify that root cause or type? And so at the end, I'll take you through the system that we use in the PCOS protocol program to identify your type, okay? So I will show you kind of the back end, show you where the algorithm we use, how we kind of identify that through both blood tests, but because not everyone has blood tests, we actually are really accurate in using symptoms as well. So this is why you don't have to have a whole lot of blood tests, as long as you know what you're looking for. So what makes this different is that treating the root cause gets results, okay? It gets results. And this is because it's not just the likes of Dana, but also Amanda. I mean, Amanda lost, I think this is upwards of 60 pounds when we figured out that she had Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an insulin issue, and a stress hormone issue. And when we treated all of those, then the weight dropped off. And I've known Amanda since I was 3 years old. We were neighbours on the farm where I grew up. And so I know that she's struggled with weight since she was a toddler. And so this is seeing her being able to lose that and also regrow her hair, get her periods back. That was amazing to be able to see that. We've also seen the likes of Stephanie, who she didn't have a period for 2 years. We figured out what her type was, treated that, and she got it back within a month. So it's pretty amazing how sometimes the body can really, how quickly it can respond. For others like Dana, that was 6 months for her. So it can change. But Claire, very similar story to Amanda. Stephanie, a really good example of lean PCOS and not ruling out insulin as an issue for lean PCOS. And again, didn't have a period. We treated the root cause and she got that back within 2 months, and then was pregnant within 4 months, I think it was. And that was a very similar story to Jenna as well. So this is why I say that this absolutely works, and why I want you guys. So the crucial thing that I want you to get out of this is about that the root cause is the kingpin, is the big domino. Once you've found that out, then there's no more searching for, what supplements should I take for PCOS? Because there isn't just one PCOS. There's no searching for what's the right diet for PCOS, because there is no right diet for PCOS. If there was, we wouldn't be here, okay? We wouldn't be on this webinar, okay? So that's why I really want you to understand what is going on here, okay? So that you then are like, right, the kingpin is the absolute most important thing for you to understand. So if you've got your WhatsApp group pinging, if you've got your Facebook group on, or your Skype, I want you to turn those off, because if you don't get this from today, then you're going to continue to struggle the rest of your life. And trust me, it doesn't get better after menopause. It, in fact, gets worse. So don't think that's going to be the end of your symptoms, because it is not. So turn all those off and really concentrate on understanding this, because this is going to make a huge difference in your life. The reason I'm qualified to talk about this is because I've been where you are. Okay, so yes, I'm a degree qualified nutritionist and exercise scientist, but that didn't really help me until I was really struggling with my own symptoms, and I went and did further training to understand what could be causing this. And that's when I really stumbled on myself, what was going on. And I thought I was the healthiest person possible. Okay, I was an international athlete. I was training I competed for New Zealand in triathlon and previously in running since I was 15. And I was at nutrition school, I was at university, and so I knew all this information. I thought I knew all this information. But yet I was then diagnosed with quite severe insulin resistance. I was on the fast track to type 2 diabetes. And that's when I also found out that I had PCOS as well. And I thought that it was PCOS, no cysts on the ovaries, that were causing me to have the insulin issues. Really, when I found out that what it really was that it was my insulin and my stress hormones that was causing my PCOS symptoms. And if I addressed those with the right kind of diet, which we didn't get taught in nutrition school, it's certainly not the food pyramid, with the right kind of exercise, and making sure that I had enough vitamins and minerals for my body to work optimally, not just whether I was deficient or not, but whether I actually had enough for my insulin receptor to work properly, my stress hormones to work properly. That's when I got the resolution, okay? So I want you guys to stop now and quickly imagine, because I know where you are, okay? I know exactly where you are because I've been there. That, for me, that was, you can see on the left-hand side here, and I always had really, skinny legs from being a runner, but I gained a lot of weight, and I do not have a lot of great photos from this period of my life because I just did not take any photos or deleted them all. But I gained a lot of weight in my upper body and around my middle section. I also had bad acne. I also did not have a period for 3 years. And I was just so fatigued, so tired, was constantly having hangry attacks, constantly incredible sugar cravings. And so I know what it's like. I know what it's like to wake up on a Monday and be like, this is the week. This is the week the diet's going to work. Or having to wake up and be like, oh, God, I've got that, meeting. And I worked in a corporate job. So I'd be like, oh, gosh, I'm late 20s. I'm still getting acne. How am I going to cover that up? Or whether you need to shave that day, or whether today's with a pregnancy test that's going to be positive. How would it feel to be without that worry? Because that is what fixing that root cause can do, okay? And this is why it's so important. And as I said, that's what, not just me, but there is hundreds of examples, and you can just look on my website, thepcsnutritionist.com, and you'll see so many examples of that. So it's not, this is, other women's stories, and I know that reading other people's stories and seeing them here can be so motivating. Okay, so that's why I really want you to see that this is, it's not just my experience, but it is now having, when I actually had to go back and restudy and figure out how to do more investigative tests to figure out what's going wrong, and then what kind of treatment plans we would put in place depending on what the root cause is. And when I did that, then my life changed. But having just a nutrition degree and an exercise science degree didn't really help me. It was only when I then figured out, okay, how to do the testing and look for symptoms and what should we be looking for to figure out what that root cause was, that we then get a resolution. And so what I want you to get out of today, so this is my goal for you today, is that you understand these three things. That there is not one PCOS. We all have different root causes. And that there is no one medication or one supplement that's going to fix that root cause. And lastly, that you do not have to diet and cut out all carbohydrates to improve your symptoms. Okay, so that's what I really want you to get out of today. So first of all, secret number one is that there is no one PCOS. We all have different root causes. And so PCOS is just a name. So syndrome is a group of symptoms which consistently occur together, and that's how basically the name that we're given, and it is PCOS. It's just really describing what's going on. But the thing about a syndrome is that it doesn't all progress in the same way, and that's why there isn't one treatment cause. So if you think about other syndromes, think about chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, premenstrual tension syndrome. Okay, those are all syndromes, and what do you all recognize about those? Yeah, the people that have them generally are not getting a resolution from their doctor because they don't have the same root cause. It's not like a disease like cancer where it progresses in the same way. So it's cells replicating out of control, and therefore we know that that's the way that the disease progresses. In PCOS, it doesn't work like that. So the trick is finding out what that root cause is, and there's many things. So you might be thinking, but how does that work, Claire? Because I've heard that PCOS is a genetic thing. And yes, it is. But the genes only predispose us. They are like, if you think about a gun does not do anything. Even if it's loaded, unless there's someone there to pull that trigger, it does not do a thing. Okay, actually what happens is that actually you have to have someone there to pull that trigger. And that's what the environmental factors are, okay, or what the root cause is. So, and the thing about the genes in PCOS is that they're genes that we have been selected over thousands of years because they actually help us survive in famine. And that's really, if there is apocalypse that actually happens, we're going to be the ones that survive because we actually then, we are the ones that can switch off ovulation very quickly and store fat very quickly or very easily as well. So, in PCOS, so you can say, because we can see that in, say, identical twin studies, you have identical twin, one has PCOS and one does not, even though they have exactly the same genetic makeup being identical twins. So we know that there's an environmental factor that actually pulls that trigger. So in PCOS, the main systems that get out of whack in the body, which reflect the environmental kind of stuff that's going on, is these ones here. So your thyroid, your insulin, your stress hormones, chronic inflammation, and these act on our ovaries and other parts of our body which overproduce testosterone and androgens. And that is the crux of what PCOS is. It's an overproduction of androgen hormones in the body, the male hormones. So not just testosterone, there's others as well. And that's then what causes the hair growth, the acne, the hair loss, etc. So I want to show you how one of those happens. And this is all governed by our brain, our hypothalamus, because that is the conductor of all of the hormones in the body. So, for example, when it's, say, insulin, so insulin is our hormone that what its job is to get into take the food that we eat and open up the cell door, which are always locked, and get the food into our cells so we can use them as energy. But in something like insulin resistance, what happens there is that it's like the key does not fit in the door anymore. And so our brain recognizes this and then stimulates our pancreas to produce more insulin. And then what that does is that when we've got high levels of insulin in our blood, is that causes our body to overproduce the androgen hormones. Okay, so that's one example of how these work. I could say they do the same thing for the adrenals, for thyroid, for inflammation, etc. So I'm going to take you down now another level and show you, well, then you're probably thinking, okay, that's all very interesting, Claire, but how does it cause my facial hair? Because I see you guys chatting about having to shave and stuff, and that's, horrible symptoms. So I'll talk about facial hair in a minute, but firstly, talk about acne. So let's take one of those root causes, the insulin. What it does is, you can see those yellow glands on the screen, right? So they're your oil glands. And what these do is they overproduce oil in this, and so they produce oil, but what testosterone does is that causes them to overproduce oil. And that overproduction of oil then gets clogged in our pores. That then often develops an infection or gets infected, and then that's what causes the acne pustule. Okay. So if we look at that, when we look at the root cause, we go, okay, it's an overproduction of testosterone, but then we look at what's causing the testosterone, and in this case, it's the insulin. So that's why we need to look that layer down, get to that root cause. The same thing when it's infertility. So again, in PCOS, what happens, why you might not be getting a period, or why you might be starting to conceive, is because your body's not ovulating. And that's because the blue line here governs whether your body ovulates or not. And in PCOS, that high levels of insulin and testosterone, for example, if insulin's the root cause, will cause that blue line to rise too high, and then your body won't be able to ovulate. Same thing when it comes to hair loss. Again, if the root cause causes no production of the testosterone, gets into the hair follicle dies, and then the hair falls out. And the same thing with hair growth. So we all have these fine hairs on our face. That's what the left picture represents. What testosterone does is it gets into that hair follicle and causes them to turn from the fine kind of peach fuzz into the big black hair. Okay, so when we look at, you guys are talking about facial hair and hirsutism, is that if you look at that, you'd say, okay, well, it's testosterone that's causing it. But what we look down is a layer further. So what's causing the testosterone to have that effect? Or what's causing the testosterone to be high? And then when we fix that, then we fix not only hair growth, but also other issues as well. So the reason that you likely won't know what this is because your doctor won't have done the correct test to pick up what's going on or know what symptoms to look for. So it's not about tests. For those of you that are like, but I can't get tests clear, that's fine. We can use a lot of symptoms, a lot of very specific symptoms to pick this up. So you might not be able to read what's on the screen, but you might have been like, well, how do we actually get, how do we, find out what test to have it? And what will often happen is your doctor might do an HbA1c. And an HbA1c, actually, if we can see from this research, is not sensitive enough to pick up whether there's an issue with your insulin or not. So that, it doesn't pick up 82 to 94% of cases of insulin issues. Okay, so that's why a lot of the time you won't have had this picked up. And a really great example of this is Dana. Again, as I said before, she's a doctor, and she was like, I had all the access to my tests. I knew, and I was already doing those. And I was like, well, they're all normal. They're all in normal range. So what could be causing this? And that's when she came and joined our protocol. And when she did, we found out that actually while her insulin, the tests were not out of normal range, it was high enough to be causing her symptoms. So which were the weight gain, the hair loss, the acne, etc. And so she had already tried all diets. She was working out with a personal trainer 3 times a week. She had tried like ketogenic. She was eating low calorie, everything, and nothing would work. Once we actually identified that it was insulin that was the issue, we fixed that with by modifying her diet and exercise and supplements and stuff. Then she got the resolution. So then she lost 20 pounds and 6 inches off her waist. She doesn't have acne anymore. Her hair fall is a lot less. She's not as irritable anymore. She has loads more energy. And even though her insulin wasn't out of normal range, it went from 5.5 to 5, which is an incredible decrease in 6 months. And she said, I actually exercise a lot less than before, but I've seen much better results because I'm now doing the right type of exercise. So Carrie, does that make sense now when you said, how do I fix it? That it's all about that root cause. So it's like, I can't tell you, okay, well, you just eat this, Carrie, or take this supplement, because we don't know yet what the issue is for you. So once we figure out what that is, then we can actually match you up with the right treatment plan. Okay, so, and this is why, same for you, Sarah, that it doesn't necessarily matter. This is why I went through and said that we need to understand what that root cause is to fix all your symptoms, because it's the same way I showed you how insulin could affect all of these symptoms. Okay, so it's not just like, oh, okay, insulin's there, therefore insulin causes acne. No, insulin can cause all of those symptoms. Same thing with high stress hormones, same thing with thyroid, same thing with inflammation. So that's why a symptom, say acne or hair, doesn't tell me anything about what's causing it. Okay, it's actually when we delve deeper and get to that root cause, then we know what's going on. Does that make sense, Sarah? I hope so. And the reason why some people get different symptoms is that's just individual variation. Okay, it's got nothing to do with that root cause why I wouldn't get hair growth and then Justine would. So for example, it's got nothing to do with that. It's all about what that root cause is. So the secret number 2 is that no medication or one supplement is going to fix your PCOS symptoms. So stop looking, okay? Stop Google searching for or looking in Facebook groups and ask people, okay, what supplement do you take? Because it does not work, okay? So I'll give you a really good example of this. So you know how when you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you've got PCOS. Here, take hormonal birth control because that's going to regulate your period and also bring down your testosterone. And Carrie, yes, the protocol starts 1st of April. Good question. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But so if you've got, so what hormonal birth control does is imagine you've got this overproduction of testosterone and androgens in your body, which is the crux of what PCOS is. And what the pill does is it's well, let's go back a little step here. So you guys can see the slide on here with the overflowing sink, right? You see that there? So if that was your sink and you walked into your bathroom, what would you do? Would you go and just throw a whole lot of sponges and towels in there? Or would you turn the tap off first? You turn the tap off, of course, right? Yeah, because otherwise you're going to have to keep throwing towels in there as you're not dealing with the source of the issue. And then you'd have hundreds of wet towels that you're going to have to deal with. But that's exactly what we're doing with hormonal birth control. Because what it does, that increases the sponges in our body that go around and mop up testosterone. And it's called sex hormone binding globulin. Okay, so sex hormone binding globulin does just that. It's those sponges. But what the pill is also doing is it's actually turning that tap on higher. And so if you then decided to go off the pill, then you're going to have even higher testosterone and you've just taken away all those sponges. Okay? So that's what's going on in your body. That's why often people get like a massive acne breakout or hair growth or hair loss when they go off hormonal birth control, because that's what we've done. We've just gone and ripped away all the sponges and increase the testosterone even more. So that tap's on full bore now. So what we're doing instead is we're going actually fixing the root cause, which is turning that tap off, right? And it doesn't mean you can't be on the pill at the same time. And this is a really big thing. I always say to people, actually, I would rather you stay on the hormone birth control if that's what you're on at the moment, while we fix the root cause at the same time, because then hopefully you won't get that big spike. And Justine, you're saying, yeah, that was me. Yeah, so this is why so many women go through this. So, but often, we have to do that if we do want to conceive. And so what I want to do is make sure that we, prevent that. The other thing you would get told is that hormonal birth control regulates your period. But what I'm going to show you here is that actually your period or regulates your cycle. But actually what the pill does is it gives you a bleed. It does not give you a cycle. So the cycle is the ebb and flow of all of these hormones. You've got the orange one, estrogen. You've got the purple one, follicle stimulating hormone. And blue is luteinizing hormone. And green is progesterone. What the pill does is it actually stops ovulation. So what you're doing is you're just getting a synthetic form of progestin and estrogen. And then when you stop taking that, i.e. your sugar pills, then you just get that then tells the body, okay, progesterone's low, shed the lining and get a bleed. Okay, but what actually causes a cycle is first of all, really ovulation is the king thing that stimulates a cycle. So once you get ovulation, then you get a rise in progesterone, then you get a bleed, and then you get your period, and then you get the rise in estrogen. And that's the cyclical nature of it. Okay, so that's what a cycle is. So a pill can never regulate that cycle because it never produces a cycle. It just produces this synthetic hormone and then remove that, so then you get the bleed. But ovulation is really the key thing here, and it doesn't let you ovulate. So the same thing happens when you might be said, okay, come off the pill and then we'll give you Clomid. And again, Clomid can't actually fix that root cause. It doesn't allow what it's doing is it's not helping you to ovulate. Well, it is helping you to ovulate, but it's not helping that cycle to do that naturally. It's kind of artificially forcing that ovulation to occur. And the problem is if we don't fix that root cause, so say, for example, your root cause is insulin, then if you've got high levels of insulin, then you're going to be at risk of developing gestational diabetes, because pregnant women are already more likely to develop diabetes, and so you're going to be at much higher risk, which then the stats show you're at a 2 to 4-fold risk of gestational diabetes and of preeclampsia during pregnancy. Okay, so, and then your baby's at a 2 to 4-fold risk of developing hypoglycemia, which could then lead them to cardiovascular issues and metabolic complications later in life. So what I always say is that getting pregnant is not the end game. If fertility is your goal, getting pregnant is one of the steps. Actually having a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy, that's really the end game. And that's what I want to do by treating the root cause, and that's what we can achieve. And a really great example of this I'll show you in a minute is Sarah. But what I want to say is that medications have their place. And as I say to you before, I often tell people to stay on the medication they're on, but let's treat the root cause at the same time, okay? But they have their place. And I love modern medicine. I love the fact that if I got hit by a bus, the fact that there was nowhere else in the world I'd want to be apart from the hospital, right? And that's because our medical professionals are incredible at doing what they do best, which is that kind of thing. But they're not trained in that root cause diagnostics and the lifestyle changes. And that's why I always say that medications have their place, but it's after we've addressed the root cause. And as I said before, Dana was a great example of that. She had all of the she had the medical training herself, but still couldn't figure that out for herself. Sarah's another really good example of where we fix the root cause, things all fall in place. She had, when she came and joined our protocol, she had no period, acne, was tired all the time, had weight gain, and she'd had 6 rounds of Clomid that had been unsuccessful. When we figured out that her root cause was her insulin wasn't working properly and also her stress hormones really weren't working either, it took her only 1 month to get her period back, and then 4 months later she was pregnant completely naturally. She'd also lost a bunch of weight. That photo there was actually when she was about 7 months pregnant. Her acne had cleared up, her energy levels were so much better. And this is really important because Sarah is a teacher. And so you imagine being in the first trimester of pregnancy, which is already incredibly tiring, and also trying to stand in the front of the class and teach, a bunch of students. And for her, she was like, I almost couldn't have coped if I'd had the energy levels before and also fallen pregnant. So if she had fallen pregnant on Clomid, she would still had all these issues. So she would have had the weight gain, would have been at risk of just developing gestational diabetes, and had that poor energy levels as well. So this way we can kind of fix all of those things that she didn't even know were connected. Same thing with Chantal, so many different symptoms. When we treated that root cause, she actually was like, oh my God, my stomach pain and IBS have disappeared. My eczema has disappeared. And these are not related to PCOS, but they are related to the root cause, okay? So PCOS and our androgens don't cause eczema, but chronic inflammation in the body does, and that can also cause PCOS symptoms. So again, when we treat that, it's amazing what things resolve. Also for her blood tests, her hormone levels just normalized completely. So her testosterone was previously off the charts. After about 6 months, it was back well within the normal range, no longer any cysts. And her best friend, who's a gynecologist, was like, wow, we just do not see this in anything, normally with people. So we just do not see this. She was like, years ago, I would have just taken so many different supplements. And she was like, now it makes sense why none of them really worked and why none of them got me a resolution, because I was just throwing, it was just a scattergun approach. I didn't know what I was trying to fix. Okay, so it's why it's really, really important to actually fix that root cause and understand what that is, because otherwise you're just wasting money, just throwing it down the drain. So secret number 3, so we'll get through this last one, and then we'll go back, and if you've got any questions, we'll go through those at the same time. But anything related to these slides, let me know. So what this one is, it's all about how you don't have to diet and cut out all carbs to get resolution of your symptoms. And that makes sense when we think about the fact that we can have lean PCOS as well, and that for many of you, up to 30% of women with PCOS, they don't have weight gain associated. But it doesn't mean that they don't have a root cause, or that the root cause is not, say, insulin, which is often associated with weight gain. So Steph is a perfect example of this. She had perfect BMI, and I have known Steph for a long time, actually. We started as graduates together when we finished university. And so I've known her, never had a weight issue. She came off the pill and her cycles were like 90 days long. She went to the doctor after a year of trying, and they were like, you've got PCOS, but there's nothing we can do for you because you don't need to lose weight. And therefore, IVF is your only option. So she started the protocol. We actually realized that while she didn't have a weight issue, her insulin wasn't working properly. So she was nowhere near the pre-diabetic range. It all looked normal in the lab tests. But when we did our specific tests and we used our specific reference range, her insulin wasn't normal. Okay, it was slightly out. By just treating that and slightly tweaking her diet and exercise and stuff, her periods shortened from 90 days, 34 days in 2 months. And after 3 months, she conceived successfully. So this is why it's so important not to make false assumptions about what that root cause is. We really have to go through and figure that out. Okay, so for her, she's a really great example of like a lean PCOS case. Stephanie's another really great example of figuring out what that root cause is and why it's not just about, especially when it's weight, not just about exercising more and eating less. So she actually gained 30 pounds before her wedding. And anyone that's got married will know that, like, you're generally like trying your hardest not to do that before your wedding. So she was exercising twice a day. She was eating super low calorie, but she was just gaining weight. And her periods were also missing for about 2 years. So after less than a month when we figured out what her type was, which was definitely insulin for her and also stress hormones, and which was why exercising twice a day had not helped her. It actually made her gain weight, because it's not just about calories, it's about hormones. And when we actually got her onto the right type of eating and exercise, she got her period back after 2 years. Within a month after not having it for 2 years. She also lost like 5 inches in just 8 weeks. Her energy's improved. She's also finally taking the right supplements, she said. And better yet, she messaged me on Instagram back in about September to say that she was pregnant as well, which was about 6 months later. So that's very cool news for her. Again, Claire, she tried every diet under the sun, low calorie, low carb. And this is why I say that it doesn't necessarily mean eating less or eating less carbohydrates. So Stephanie's a great example. She actually, when she came onto the protocol, she was eating more than she ever had before and more carbohydrates than she was eating before, even though her insulin wasn't working properly. So it doesn't mean that you have to like do a ketogenic diet, or even that that's going to work for everybody, because most of the time it doesn't, or for a lot of people it doesn't. And for Claire, hers was the same thing. She'd tried ketogenic diet, and she'd had massive weight gain issues, her period had been missing for many years. When we figured out the insulin was an issue for her and her stress hormones as well, her thyroid, she had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Then after 6 months, she lost 53 pounds, 20 inches. Her anxiety is resolved, which is massive as well. Doesn't get tired anymore, and her periods are now regular. And she's also was like, it's helped my marriage and my work, because I was previously told I had an attitude problem, and my husband and I were fighting all the time. And that's because I wasn't getting the energy that I needed, because my insulin wasn't allowing me to actually use the food that I was eating, and I was just starving myself. So no wonder I was hangry all the time and snapping at my workmates and snapping at my husband, because I was moody because my hormones were all over the place as well. So Amanda, I gave you her example before. When we treated that case for her, she was eating really low calorie, really low carbohydrate, and exercising as well. When we figured out what her root cause was, which was Hashimoto's thyroiditis and insulin, put her on the right diet. She's actually, again, eating more carbohydrates, more calories than she ever has before, but she's actually managed to lose about 60 pounds. Okay. Same with Dana. She said and you can read and listen to her, I did an interview with her, I now eat more carbohydrates than I ever ate before. And I know how to eat. My body gets the nutrition that it needs and won't react negatively to it. So that's why it's not just about being like, okay, I'm putting on weight, therefore I need to eat less, exercise more, or even just like, okay, well, I've seen everywhere the ketogenic diet works for PCOS, that's it for me. And that's not necessarily the case. As I said before, it doesn't work for many women, and it actually makes some women worse. But the big thing about it is that For some people, they do need to. If the insulin is so bad they cannot handle any carbohydrate, it might be necessary. But my goal is to try and give you as broad a range of food to eat as possible. So I don't want to restrict anything more than what I have to. So if you can have a bit of toast and it's not going to affect you, or you can have a potato or sweet potato and it's not going to affect you, your insulin can handle that, then I want you to be able to eat that, because that's going to be way more sustainable for you over the long term than cutting everything out and just, and having to only eat, keto for the rest of your life. Okay, so that's what my goal is for you. And that's why when we understand what that root cause is, then we can actually put you on to that right dietary strategy. And I'm an 80-20 person. Absolutely. I'm not a perfectionist. So in the way that I want to be able to give you as broad a life as possible. So I want you to be able to get away with as least amount of exercise as you can. And I want you to be able to get away with eating as many different foods as you can. So that's why I want to give you that life so that you can get away with. So you don't have to think that you have to be stuck to this regimented plan for the rest of your life, because that is no fun for anybody. You want to be able to go away to Italy and be like, yeah, I know that. I know that I can have this. I can have an ice cream because it's not going to, I know how much I can handle. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. Awesome. I love that. Justin's like, amen to that. Yes, exactly. That is the life that we want, right? We want to be being healthy and reversing our PCOS symptoms is to give you a life that you can live and enjoy, okay? I don't want you to be healthy just for the sake of health. I want you to be out there doing the things that you want, because that is life to me, not being like, oh my God, I've got to stick to this very rigid diet plan and I've got to, make sure that I'm running 10 kilometers a day, otherwise I'm going to put on weight. No, it doesn't work like that, guys. It does not work like that at all. So that's why I want to give you that flexibility and figure out what are the most important things for you, and let's only kind of change that. Okay, awesome. I love that you guys are wanting that as well. So if that's the case for you, then do you want to know, have a plan to be able to figure this out that you could follow? Yeah? Okay, because that's what I'm going to go into now. I'm going to take you through the PCOS protocol, which is my 12-week plan. That's all those guys, that's what they've done, okay? That is, what we're going to go through. So if that's not you, if you're like, nah, Claire, I'm happy figuring this out myself. I'm happy just to buy all the supplements. I'm happy to, go and spend my life Googling and being on Facebook groups and trying to copy what other people are doing. Then switch off now, because this part is not for you. This part is for those of you that are like, yes, hell yes, I want to plan. I want to figure out what that root cause is. I want a life that I can have, that I can be as flexible as possible and not be regimented, and that I can love. And to know what you're predisposed to, so that you can be healthy long term. Because, for example, if it's something like insulin, yeah, it's going to be causing these symptoms, but it's also going to be predisposing you to, say, type 2 diabetes in the long term as well, which is no fun for anybody. So if that's you guys, then this is how we do it. This is the PCOS protocol. So as I said before, I'm going to show you how we identify that root cause, and I'm going to take you in the back end now into our algorithm and show you why you don't necessarily need a lot of blood tests. What we can do is work off some quite specific symptoms. So I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to show you a video of this type identifier so you can have a look. So these are some of the things that what I'm looking for. So you can see here down that I'm looking for, say, your waist circumference, because that can tell me a huge amount about where that root cause might be. I'm also looking, yes, I do look at blood test results, but I look at quite different ranges to what your doctor would be looking for. Because as I said, I don't really care whether you're pre-diabetic or diabetic or not. What I'm looking for is any slight changes in glucose or insulin that could be causing that. I'm also looking for dark velvety patches on the folds of your skin. I'm looking for things like symptoms, like, do you feel tired after meals? Do you crave sweets during the day? Does eating sweets relieve the cravings for sugar, or do you still must have sugar after meals? I'm looking at, are you thirsty or hungry? Is it hard for you to lose weight? Do you have a family history of diabetes? So we look at a lot of family history of things, which can tell me a lot about your genetic predisposition. Do you get hangry attacks? So all these kind of simple things that you wouldn't think much of, but tell me so much about what that root cause could be. Same thing. Is it hard for you to stay asleep? Do you crave salt? Do you wake up tired even after a good night's sleep? Do you have difficulty getting up in the morning? Do you depend on coffee? Do you feel tired? And I can see like that a lot of you guys will be going, yes, yes, yes. Okay, so this is what I'm saying about how you don't necessarily need to have all of the, Carrie's like hangry all the time. Yeah, okay, so that tells me a huge amount. Like, not one of these things can tell me everything, but combined, they tell me a lot about what could be going on for you and what could be the combination for you. So very rarely is it just one thing for you. So, for example, I can't remember, maybe it was you, Carrie, before that was saying that you had IBS. So it was Sarah, had IBS symptoms, and that was how you found me, was that article. So this is what I'm saying, is that a lot of the time it's many different symptoms here, and that's why it's a combination of things. That's why there's actually so many of them. There's like 6 pages of this, because what I'm looking for is patterns in here, and it's the patterns that will then tell me, okay, yeah, this is pretty much likely what's going on for you. And then we going through this, so what I've done is I've basically, there's an algorithm, quite a complicated algorithm in the back end, which then looks for those patterns, and then it can draw out and be like, yeah, okay, so for Carrie, it's definitely her insulin's not working properly, but also it's also not her stress hormones are not working properly either. So then we can go and we can address those. And then, so what the algorithm does is that picks up, and 95% of people that go through the protocol, that can pick up what's going on for them, even if they don't have any blood tests. For 5%, it'll be inconclusive, and I will then have to send them off to get some blood tests. But the great thing is that we have access to blood tests now online, that we can actually just go online and order. We don't have to, if you're in, say, Australia or New Zealand or the UK, where you often have to beg and scream and kick to get your doctor to order something for you, because we're in a national health system. And even in the US, I know, like, a lot of my patients as well, is that even though you're paying in your insurance, you still can't just be like, I want this. So for those of you that really struggle with that, then we have ways of ordering these online, and a lot of them are not very expensive at all. So, for example, a full thyroid panel, which they often won't do. In the UK is £50. In the US, it's about $100. Same thing in New Zealand, we can get that as well. So a lot of these can be quite inexpensive and can give you so much information about what's going on. So then you go, yeah, okay, now I know, I can see it on black and white on paper, what's happening. And then you've also got a starting point. So you can be like, right, we're going to do this. We know that insulin's an issue. I'm going to go through the protocol. I'm going to stick with these changes for now for 6 months, and then I'm going to measure that again in 6 months and see how much that's improved, because that can then show us unequivocally how we're going and if we may have missed something or not. Because generally, if it still hasn't improved, then it's like, okay, we're missing something. If you're like, no, I'm definitely adhering to what you're saying here in the protocol, then we can help change that. Regina, I love how you said that this approach now makes sense. Great, awesome, I love that. Tell me more, because I always like to know how I can improve my communication to tell you guys about what we need to be doing. Jocelyn, would tests be costly online in the US without insurance? No, actually really cheap. I can, so as I said before, the thyroid panel would be about $100, and the same thing with the insulin test would be about, I think it's $130. And then, so it's not too expensive. But as I said, you don't actually need any of that unless we get through this type identifier and it's inconclusive. Okay, and as I said, that's only been for 5%. We've now had 700 women go through the protocol, and only 5% of them has been inconclusive. Okay, so it's very unlikely that you're going to need that. Same with you, Carrie. No, I wouldn't order anything before, because otherwise you're probably just wasting money when you don't need to. We'll go through, if we can't tell from the algorithm what's going on, then you can go and get the test done. But I would say for most of you, it's not necessary, and we can tell so much from that. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you might not need to test, absolutely. And then what we'll do is, even if it's inconclusive, I have a chat with you either in the Facebook group or on because we do every couple of weeks. Well, I'm in there answering questions all the time in the group, But then if it's like a more complicated question, we do a live Zoom call where I can bring you on. So the cool thing about this, you know how it's great that we can chat here, but I can't bring you on to actually chat with you face to face, Carrie, and be like, great, so excited to meet you as well. But in that Zoom I can. So you can come and be like, it's inconclusive, and we can actually talk through your symptoms, and I can be like, actually it sounds like this, so follow this type for now until you get that testing done, and then you can always change later. But generally it's pretty clear what's going on. So yeah, if for those of you that really want to get testing done, you don't mind paying the money, no problem. You can email us when you join the protocol and we can send you through a list of tests. But it's a bit of a scattergun approach because you're kind of testing everything. So that's, that could be, could be a bit more costly for you than what it needs to be. So that's why I just don't want to waste your guys' money. So that's why I always say, just go through the type identify first. And if we really can't figure it out, then go and get some testing done. So hopefully that's cool. So just reading through some comments. Oh God, you guys are so lovely. Oh my God, you're making my Friday afternoon. It's Friday afternoon here in Auckland, in New Zealand. And I can't tell you how lovely it is to hear all your lovely comments. So thank you so much. So Carrie, how long before I start seeing results? Awesome question. I actually had that one list previously from someone that had previously submitted one. So that is so super individual. So you can see, for example, I'm going to go back to the slide presentation here. For example, we talked about Stephanie before. She was the one that her period was missing for like 2 years, and then within a month of just making the changes, she got that back. And was able to lose, I think she lost about 5 inches. We generally don't encourage you to weigh yourself through the protocols. This is why you won't generally see much about weight loss on there, because I just see that it's such a bad reflection of how things are going. But yeah, she lost about 5 inches, and so that was like quite quick for her. Whereas Dana, the doctor, 6 months. So during the protocol, she noticed some changes during the 12 weeks, but it was really that consistently sticking with it in 6 months. She messaged me after 6 months and she was like, I just want to let you know what's gone on for me and all the things that have improved, and which was amazing. And I have all my women do this to me all the time, which is great, and I love hearing the success stories. And so we did an interview with her, because I know that's really helpful for you guys hearing, okay, so if a doctor's suffering from this, then this, that makes me feel better, because it doesn't mean that it's my fault. It's not what maybe other doctors are saying. It's like, it's an issue because of your weight. I know, who was it before? Someone was like, I asked my GP, Sue, was it asked my GP if my fatigue could cause my insulin resistance? She said, no, it's because of the excess weight. And it's like, that is so untrue. Weight does not do that in itself. And in fact, it's actually the insulin that causes us to gain the weight, which is therefore also what causes the fatigue issues as well. So that's why there was so much focus on weight in the medical world, which there shouldn't be, which should actually be going to the root cause. Very few cases I see is that people of weight gain and PCOS is because you're eating too much and exercising too little. Very, very few. I would say probably 1% of people. It's generally due because of that hormonal imbalance, and that actually your body cannot use your fat to, for energy to actually release that. And that's because the insulin is stopping that in a lot of cases. Sarah, so why does working out cause more weight gain? Yeah, because of the stress hormones, and because their job is to keep us alive, right? And weight is an essential function when your body thinks that you're going to die. Okay, so the amount of weight that you have is directly correlated to how long you can survive in a famine. And if your body thinks, okay, we're under stress, in my brain, I only know there are a few things that can cause stress, because our brains haven't evolved to understand psychological stress. They think famine, tribal warfare, things that we would have had thousands of years ago. And so it goes, right, let's hold on to everything we can. And also stress, again, it could be also affecting your insulin. It can exacerbate insulin issues. And then you've got a double whammy effect there going on, because insulin, how I told you before about how insulin's the hormone that takes your food and stores it in the cell, and so that your body can use it for energy. So there's two. So you think about your insulin's your fat storing hormone. And on the opposite end of the seesaw, you've got your fat burning hormone, glucagon, but they work in opposition like a seesaw, right? So when one's high, so insulin's always high, then glucagon's always going to be low. And so you are always in a fat storing rather than a fat burning mode. Okay, and the whole ability to be able to lose weight is that you're able to then access your stored fat and use that for energy. And if you haven't got that hormonal balance right, i.e. your glucagon can't rise, then you can't access that stored fat. And instead, what your body's going to do is just going to reduce your metabolism more, even if you're cutting calories. Okay, does that make sense, Sarah? So that's why, that's why it's so important to get to that root cause. We can't just, for you, so I'm just I really feel for you that that's what your doctor said to you, but that is what so many women get. So that's why I want to re-educate, and this is why it's so great. Dana, the doctor that went through this, she is actually now going and getting in, specializing in preventative care, because she was like, man, I have learned so much through this process about treating the root cause and preventative medicine and stuff. I want to go and share this knowledge with so many women. And that is the most amazing thing I could ever hope to get out of the work that I do is doctors being able to, identify that and spread the word about that root cause. Okay, so it's pretty cool. So for any of the rest of you wanting to know a bit more about what we do inside the PCOS protocol. So it's 12 weeks. And what we do is we identify, first of all, that root cause. And then, as I said before, how I said that I'm an 80-20 person? I want to give you the, most important things. Oh, look, I'm wearing the same dress as what I was in that video. Isn't that nice? I don't just have one dress. But I want to give you the most important things that you can do for your type. So, for example, if you find that it's an insulin issue, then I don't just want you to be like, oh, remove all of these foods. You can't eat any of this. You have to do all of this exercise. It's like, no, let's look at the most important thing that you can do to actually treat that root cause, and therefore just give you that. So because when we focus on those really important things, they're much more easy to sustain, because, if I just gave you everything to change, then you probably wouldn't be able to sustain it, and therefore it wouldn't stick with you. And therefore, going back to, say, Carrie's question about how long it takes for it to, for you to see results. You might be a Dana and really it takes 6 months to see those resolution. And if you cannot stick with it, then you're certainly not going to stick with it over 6 months. Okay. So that's why we then break the changes down into very small changes. So weekly, you're changing one thing. So the first week might be just changing your breakfast. Literally, that's it. But that can have the biggest impact on your hangry attacks, your sugar cravings, your fatigue levels, and then everything starts to fall into place. Okay. So this is how we do it. So you get a daily email, but everything is housed inside you. So you get access to the online membership site. And so you can see here, day 11, you get a new video, day 12. So you don't have to watch all of these, but a lot of them are kind of FAQ videos. So you kind of get the main thing at the start of the week, what you have to do. And then every kind of day after that is sort of like, if you've got questions, Claire thought of that before me, and that's because other people have asked the same questions. So you can watch that FAQ video and figure out what you need to do. So that's all your content is in there. You also have our own private group just for your cohort, so just the cohort starting on the 1st of April. And this is what I love, and what so many of the women that have gone through the protocol have said, is that the most amazing thing they love about it is that a woman like you guys are connecting here on the thread, on the chat. I saw you guys before talking about your experiences with having to shave every day and things like that. You imagine that, but it's only the small group of you that are going through this protocol. So you actually get to make friends. We've had, so Dana, she actually, she met a couple of girls in the group, and they started a separate kind of WhatsApp chat that they keep each other accountable, and they meet up. It's pretty amazing. So you have that support from your community, and you can see what they're going through and what their successes are and how they're kind of getting through things. And then I'm in there answering questions all the time, as is my team. And then every when it's more kind of complicated questions, we have weekly or fortnightly audio podcast Q&As, and then 3 weekly, fortnightly, whatever we need, monthly video calls as well. So I kind of gauge from you guys, because we're in contact all the time. I'm like, guys, we need another video call. Who's got, who wants to come on live and chat about their issue, because we can do that. But if you don't need it, we'll just answer things via podcast. You can listen to them later. So if you've got more of a coaching question you need help with, then I answer that in a long form that I can't necessarily answer by writing on the Facebook. Okay, so it's very very interactive the way that we do it, and we suit kind of, you know, your needs as much as anything. We're not fixed about how. So if we need to do weekly video calls, then we do weekly video calls. If we don't, then we don't. What you also get is you get a whole bunch of bonuses. So you get a whole cookbook. So these are all recipes that I personally use. Another woman in the group personally use. They're not just ones we found off the internet and go, oh, these look nice. These are actual real recipes. So we've collated those. You also get my PT in your pockets. I've created all videos of how to do exercises. So we have like home-based workouts, gym-based workouts, whatever you use, whatever you like, there's a workout there. And I show you how to do the exercise correctly. And then the video, like you can just go in and play the video and I'll be like, right, okay, this is what you're doing today. Here's how to do a squat properly, for example, and you can follow along. So it's like having a PT there who shows you how to do everything, but you don't have to pay the exorbitant fees. And then also we have a lot of expert interviews as well. So we have like Gretchen here, who's like the PCOS psychologist. So she is, you know, we talk a lot about mood and psychology and things like that. So, and other experts too. So I'm just going to quickly flick through here. So for those of you that do want, hopefully that's popped up now. The link is the PCOSnutritionist.com/the PCOS protocol. So there's two payment options, $399 one-off payment or a monthly payment of $160, and that's in US dollars. On the site there you can choose to pay in different currencies, but that's what it equates to in USD. So you've got the two options to pay there. So I said monthly or the one payment. And as I said, it's starting on April the 1st. So quick, I mean, I've taken in some questions that people have thrown in prior, but this is your chance to ask questions now. So jump on the chat and ask them now. I want to make sure that we get through them. But the one thing I always know I would be asking is it worth the money? And so I know that you'll be like, well, of course I'm going to say that it is, but I think that really it is. And when you break it down, that $399, what we're talking about here is $33.25 a week. Okay, so think about everything else that you spend $35 on. Okay, so we wouldn't think twice about dropping $35 on a Uber Eats or takeaway Deliveroo a week, right? Like, wouldn't even think twice about it. So please don't think twice about this for your health, because that is like the equivalent of what we're talking about here. And to get that, as I said, understand that root cause and to have that answer, have that plan for the rest of your life is so crucial, because this is really the thing. As I said, this is the big domino. Once you understand what that root cause is and then are able to actually put that plan in place, then everything starts to make sense. So that is, and what I mentioned before, I think it was Chantal that was like, man, I wasted so much money on supplements and going to the doctor and like going to a gynecologist to get a scan to look at what my ovaries doing, which I then realized didn't even matter, because it wasn't the cysts that were causing the issue, it was the root cause that was causing the issue. And if I actually just knew that, I would have saved myself so much money in the long term. So that is why, really, please don't overthink this. What you're overthinking is the equivalent of $33.25 a week. Aliyah, once you identify a type, can you still learn about the other types? Absolutely, yeah. So what we do is in there you get, okay, once you've gone through the type identifier, I'll be like, Aliyah, you're type 1. But then when you're going through the, in the membership site that I showed you before, with all of the videos and stuff in it, it'll be like, type 1, this is your weekly task today. Type 2, this is your weekly task today, for example. Okay, so you get to see. And so you can watch the video for your type and then be like, I want to see what type 4's up to. So for example, and so that's why you can still learn about everything else. Lucy, is that $399 US? Yes, it was USD. $399 or 3 payments of $160. So they're monthly payments. So when you sign up, it'll take the first payment, and then the next payment will be that same day on the next month, and then the next month. Okay. And if there's any issues, so you're like, oh God, I don't actually get paid a couple of days after, just email us. It's not a big deal. Roger will just fix it for you. Okay. So we're pretty flexible, and very collaborative, as I hope you've kind of realized from this, is that the same way that I'm in here answering your questions is exactly the same way that we work inside the protocol as well. So any other questions? Justine, just want to say thank you for people like you. Your passion is our reward. Oh, thank you so much. This is amazing to hear your feedback. Catherine, how many types are there and can you have more than one? Yeah, that is what we're looking for, is that root cause. So say for you, for example, I showed you before Amanda and Claire, both of them, Amanda was Hashimoto's thyroiditis, insulin, and stress hormones. So you can see that that's kind of 3 root causes. Okay, so 3 different types. So there's not just one. Often what we might do though is be like, right, we kind of need to really hone in on fix this one though, because for example, if it's insulin, because insulin will then be impacting on the thyroid and can be causing an issue there. So we're kind of like, right, let's kind of just nail this and then we can move on and nail the next one and nail the next one, rather than you being overwhelmed with all the changes that you could possibly make. Jocelyn, you explained this also well. Oh, great. Thank goodness. I'm so glad. If you ever, if there's anything I can ever help with in terms of explaining anything better, then please let me know about that. Sabrina, I'll just go back to these guys here. It's 16399 or 3 payments of 160. Okay. And as I said, that is the equivalent. So $399 is the equivalent of $33.25 a week. Okay, so that's what it is. And how I was talking before about we wouldn't consider or wouldn't even think twice about dropping $35 on a takeaway each week, or so many other things that we spend our disposable income on, right? We all have it. So it's like, I don't know, it's top at H&M, or it's a coffee a day, which works out to be $35 a week, or it's a couple of lunches out a week, or it's parking, when we could park a bit further and walk into work and get a bit of exercise at the same time. So many things that we're just like, oh, that's an essential, when actually we don't spend the same money on our health. So if that's what you're thinking, then just think about all the things that you would spend disposable income on and what you could kind of peg back and save, and then spend it on figuring this out. Because just like Chantal said before, otherwise you'll just end up dropping a whole lot of money on supplements and stuff like that. So yeah, going $399 USD, that's right. Yeah, and so for those of you that do want to, hopefully a box has popped up where we can go straight to the website. But if not, then it's the PCOSnutritionist.com/the PCOS protocol. Okay, cool. Yeah, so hopefully, and USD. So another question that came through before was from Kate about, do I need a lot of blood tests? My doctor won't order them. Kate, hopefully this has answered that question for you. What I would recommend is that you actually go through and do the type identifier first, and then if we need to, then we fix that. Same with Hannah. I hope that that's helped in terms of lean PCOS for you, that, seeing Stephanie's example there, it's the same thing, all about figuring out what that root cause is. That just because you're lean doesn't necessarily mean that it's not insulin or that it's not a thyroid condition, for example. So that's why we need to figure that out. So, for Steph, she was like, they were told there was nothing they can do for her. IVF was her only option, and she lives in London, and it was going to be about £10,000 per round for IVF, which they were like, we could have spent, we had the money, but we didn't really want to spend it on IVF. Whereas Sarah her and her husband are teachers. They were like, there was no way we could afford IVF, and they weren't in an area that the government paid for that for them. So that was no issue for her. And she went from I think it was periods from 90 days to 34 days and 2 months, and then in 3 months she had conceived successfully. So that's why, just for your question there on lean PCOS, that's why I say it's all just the same thing about figuring out what that root cause are. Catherine, how many people are in each protocol round? We cap it, Catherine, at 80 people. So there is a cap, and I don't normally say this because I don't want to scare too many people. We'll be like, oh my God, I've got to get it, make a decision. But we do. So as soon as it hits that number, we cut it off, just because it means that I can give you a lot more one-to-one kind of help and guidance and answer as many questions as possible. And there's less people joining the video calls, and you get then more time to actually chat. So we're currently at 60, so we've got 20 more seats to go until we cap it off. But anyone that misses out, we're just saying like, well, we've got another, we'll have another round in a couple of months, so you'll just have to wait for that. But it just means that I can give as much kind of personal attention as possible. Does that answer your question, Catherine? So we can't wait the 1st of April. Next one starting. We don't necessarily set a date just because it depends on what I've got going on. I've got a big announcement to make about another project that I've got. I can kind of tell you guys. Don't tell anyone. I've been asked to write a book. So I am going to be writing a book in this next couple of quarters, which is going to take a lot of work. So I don't know, depending on, I've never written a book before. I have written a very long honours thesis, which was pretty much a book, but I don't know how long it's going to take me and stuff, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to, guys, this is like literally, you are the first people ever to know about this. It hasn't been announced yet, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to have the time to do the protocol and things like that. So sorry, Catherine, can't answer that question. Maybe, depends, maybe it's up to 6 months away, but it really depends on when we do that. So it is exciting. I know it's really exciting. And we're just, working through all of that at the moment, but that's starting writing on that ASAP. So anything else? Any other questions? The Sabrina, so what about doing all the tests and following the protocol and it somehow doesn't work? Great question. I can't control what your body does. Okay, I generally would say though, it very rarely happens. Most people are like, seeing a lot of success. But if someone's like, look, I'm following this and it's not working, then I'd be like, we've missed something. We need to go back and redo the type identifier and redo some testing because we've missed a part of that equation for you. And as I said, there's very rarely just one thing, what there often is just one thing, but for some people, they've got multiple things going on. We've generally just missed something. So that's where we go back and kind of redo that with them. And that's why I'm there on the video calls, so we can kind of chat through this and be like, look, I'm doing this. But generally what I would say is that for most of the time where people don't see any result is that it can take the body a long time to make some changes, right? So it can take, for example, with Amanda, so I gave you the example of Amanda before. I don't know whether she's on any of these ones, but she didn't see any weight. Like, for example, like Stephanie, this one here, she, within like a couple of weeks, had lost inches off her waist and had got her period back. But Amanda has gone on to lose 60 pounds, get her hair growth's growing back, her periods are back. She didn't lose a single pound in 8 weeks. Okay. And she was like, oh my God, like this is, really, I'm doing everything and I haven't even lost a single pound. These women around me are like, they're seeing successes and I'm not. What's going on? And so that's just because it can take quite a bit of time to actually for your hormone. And remember how I talked about that hormone imbalance before? I just talked about it in the case of weight, how if your insulin's constantly high, your glucagon can't raise and therefore you can't actually access your stored weight. And that's why stored fat. So that's why it can take a bit of time for changes. So I'd say generally when people if they don't see any changes because they just haven't been doing it long enough. They need to just keep going. And that's why I always said before that my aim is to give you as wide a berth as possible to try different things, because I want you to actually have as a lifestyle that you can follow as much as possible, because you will be doing this for a while. It's not a 12-week diet plan and things are going to be fixed. Okay, that's not what we do here. So there is absolutely no guarantee of whether this is going to work or how fast it's going to work. And if anyone is giving you that guarantee, run a mile, because you cannot. Okay, if anyone's giving that guarantee, then they are not being honest, because you cannot do that when it comes to the body, because our bodies act in such different ways. So I hope that answers your question. Alia, can you do the protocol while actively doing IVF? Absolutely, yeah. And I would say that I've seen many cases. I've had many women who have done that while they've been on IVF, and it's actually improved their outcome. They've had maybe one round and it hasn't been successful. They've then changed things about their lifestyle, and then suddenly they're pregnant. in the second round. And so that's definitely, absolutely, try and fix that root cause, because if your like insulin's high, stress hormone's high, that's going to be affecting the quality of your eggs, which is then going to affect the success of the protocol. Same thing with your husband, or with your partner, whoever, and is that if they, their health is just as important as well. So improving, male health too is a really great thing to do. Justine, you're enrolled. Amazing. Congratulations. Well done. I look forward to seeing you in the group. Any other questions we've got here? Just trying to go through. Cool. Jocelyn, so then all types of PCOS have a solution. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. It's all just about that root cause, and figuring what that is. I shall Swift until the 1st of April to pay. Yes, yeah, you do. It's on the website. I'm not like this is. I know the webinar thing gives you a countdown. That's something I can't change. So it's not like, oh, this is the last time you'll get the opportunity for that. This is, you have that time to pay. Just as I'm coming after you, root cause. The countdown is on. Yeah, the countdown timer is timing to fix that root cause. And Alia was pregnant just this. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss. That is heartbreaking. But yeah, so I would say definitely it can absolutely help with IVF. Cool. So getting lots of messages. This was valuable for you. Great. I am really glad that it was a Friday well spent for you guys, or wherever you are in the world. It's still Thursday in the US, but if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's probably your Friday. So I'm so glad. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me and chat with me. It has been amazing. So nice I feel like I know you guys already. And I can't wait to get to know you more inside the protocol, for those of you that are joining. And if there's any last questions, I'll hang on for another couple of minutes. But if not, then you can always email us as well. So if you just email info I'm just writing it down here in the chat for you guys, PCOS nutritionist. If you know my website, the PCOSnutritionist.com, if you just go info then you'll get, that's our email. And Jocelyn, can you tell if we misdiagnosed? It's not like, that's not what I can really do in my job. Like my job's, I can like say to you, okay, tell me what you've got, and then if I think you should probably go back and ask for a second opinion. But my job's not the diagnosis part. That's just from a legal perspective. Can't do that. And so yeah, I can. If, for example, you join the protocol and then you found that you didn't have a type, and you were like, well, what's going on here? And then I was like, oh, well, actually, maybe you don't even have PCOS. That's fine. Then we can just refund you. It's no problem. But no, that's not necessarily, like, my job isn't really the diagnosis part. Hope that makes sense. Carrie, do you ever do one-on-one phone calls? Yes, but they're a lot more expensive. So it depends on what your budget is. If you want to do one-on-one, then you can. And after the protocol, I do give you the option of doing like a 30-minute follow-up at a reasonable rate, if you want to do that. But it just means that and that's because that's one of the whole reasons I created the protocol, was because I saw that if I was working with someone one-on-one, it wouldn't just be like a one-off appointment with me. I'd have to see them kind of month after month, and even then it was too longer time between appointments. They needed answers like within the week. And so I was like, well, how can we make this affordable? Because if any of you work in a consulting space, you know that the only really way to make a consulting business sustainable is if you have quite high rates. And I was like, that's just not what I want to do. I want to be able to make this affordable for men and women around the world, and that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, because I grew up in a really rural town in New Zealand where we didn't have access to specialists like this, and you'd have to travel, and people don't have access to that. So that's exactly why I created the protocol. And the other thing I found was when I was working with my one-on-one patients, they didn't have the community support to help them make the changes that they needed to make. And then so I was like, right, well, we'll create the protocol. And I was a bit skeptical. I was like, is it really going to be as effective as one-on-one? And actually the surprising thing I found was that it was more effective than when I was working with patients one-on-one, because as I said, they had me answering their questions and can keep them motivated. They had the other women around them to help keep them motivated and help make these changes. And so they were then more likely to stick with it, rather than others I would see once and I'd never see them again. Okay, so that's why we do this. But I still do some one-on-one stuff, but it's a lot more expensive. So it really depends on what your budget is. Lucy, with the questionnaire, is the option to write more? No, but if it was that it was inconclusive for you, that would be the kind of questions that I'd ask you in like a video call. If you were like, Claire, inconclusive, I'd bring you on, or we'd chat, and I'd be like, well, no, actually, you and being able to have to, if you really struggle in the morning, there's lots of other questions. So that one by itself, if you saw there, what I'm looking for is patterns. I'm not just looking for one symptom, I'm looking for patterns. And so it wouldn't matter whether that particular one didn't fit you, because the rest of the pattern, if it was there, would still show up. Okay. Cool. Anything else you guys have got? So many good questions. I don't know if there's any others. Oh, the other one, just another one from Celia. I live in the UK, can I still do the program? Was it only for the women in the US? Absolutely not. I mean, I'm in New Zealand, Claire's in the UK, Steph is in the US. Like, we've had women from everywhere. India, Singapore, China, Finland, Alaska, like you name it, we've had someone come through. Carrie, 12 protocols, 12 weeks. Yes, 12 weeks. That's the one. Yeah, Canada. Absolutely Canada. So many in Canada. It's great. I love getting to know where everyone's from as well, and you learn different things. Like when we talk, like getting to know my girls in the US, and when going through holiday season and learning so much about like holiday season in the US. It was fascinating. So yeah, it's really fun to get to know everyone and their different areas as well. Carrie, if we need assistance over 12, absolutely. So that's what we are saying before. We have the Facebook group, and we have the audio podcast that, basically, so if you've got a question, you like either email it through to us or write it in the Facebook group. If it's a quick question that I can answer immediately in the Facebook group, I do that. But if it's more of like a complicated one, then I'll either say, like, so every week we'll have like where I'll answer them on like I'll answer them, record it like a podcast that you guys can listen to my answers, and then every other week or so we'll have a video one where it's live and you come on and join me and we talk about your question on there. So as I said before, we do those, like, so it's like audio, and then every other week is a live call. But if you need it a little bit more often, so if there's something in the area that's a bit more confusing and we need to have a live call, I just say, hey guys, do we need a live call this week? And if like a few people are like yes, then we'll do it. But if we don't, then we'll stick with the audio for that week. Does that make sense? How we do that? Now it's a little bit harder to kind of understand when you're not like in it, but when you're in it, you'll get it then. It makes sense. Cool. Awesome. Right, well, I haven't seen any more questions come in. Carrie, how do we find time to keep up with each protocol group? Because that's so once you finish your 12 weeks, that's when sort of the Facebook group is finished. So you have the 12 weeks you have longer access to all the content, but in terms of access to me, so the Facebook groups stay open, so you still talk to each other and have that community support. But me being in there answering questions is only for the 12 weeks. Okay, so that's the length of time on the protocols. That's why I only do one group at a time. I don't have multiple groups because I couldn't keep up with all of that. Okay, so that's why we've got to make sure that everything is within the group that you're in. I see what you said then. After the 12 weeks, can we still contact? No, so that's when. So after the 12 weeks, that's when the Facebook group and the calls and stuff stop. If you and as I said, that's when I then offer. So if you want to do a follow-up consult, that's we do that. I think the price for that 30 minutes is $130. So I try and do that at a relatively reasonable price if you need to have a private call after that. Or of course you can join the protocol again at half price if you want to do it again and have access and the community support and stuff like that. So I hope that makes sense. Lucy, how long has the program been live for? It's been live now we did our first one in January 2018. So we're just on almost coming, so 15 months or so, which is exciting. And this is the 6th round. So we've changed it every time to try and make it better. So at the end, you'll be given a feedback form and you guys help me make it better. So you tell me what works well, what doesn't work well. And so from that, we've kind of iterated it and don't intend on stopping that. So we want to keep making it better and better, which is cool. Excellent. Right. Well, I think that's all the questions. So I will let you guys go back to your Friday afternoon, and I am going to head into a weekend. I'm at a conference all day tomorrow. We've got a conference here in New Zealand, which is in further kind of diagnostic testing. So we're getting into the real nitty gritty, which is good. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, you're doing that on your Saturday?" Yes, I do. That's what we do because I love it. So I hope you guys have got something equally as fantastic planned and that you have a good time, and hope to see you inside the protocol. So thanks so much again for joining me today. And again, any other questions you've got after this that you think of, if you need answers to them, then it's info@thepcsnutritionist.com. And yeah, see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.